And we are recording.
Hello and welcome, everyone. My name is Corey Center. I am the innovator here to make the world better. I do that by bringing together teams of experts to turn great ideas into revolutionary solutions for their industries. I'm here today with my three favorite leaders, Linda Patton, Terry Ann Richards, and Tony Thayer. Last week, we talked about mission, which is the big why driving your business and what's going on. The natural next step from the mission is the plan, because you need to know how you're going to fulfill that mission, right? Let's dive in and talk about that. I'm going to let these three wonderful individuals introduce themselves and tell me the most important reason to have a plan. Linda, will you please start us off today?
Sure. I'm Linda Patton. I am the founder of Awaken the Leader. I have several books, one of which is No One Stood Up When I Entered the Room, One Woman's Journey from Command to True Leadership, where I do talk about the blending of the masculine and feminine into confluential leadership, which is what I believe is the best of both worlds. And it makes you the most balanced leader that you possibly can be. And so, Corey, plan is such an important part of my command side, which is the organization, the strategy, and the structure. So you have the why, you have the we're going here, and this is why we're going there. But it's like a road trip. It's really great to say, okay, we're going to the battlefields of the East Coast. How are you
Right.
going to get there? What's the plan? What's the route? Where are we going to stop? Where are we getting off? Where are we going to eat? What are the hotels we're going to stay in? Those are all the kinds of things that you need to have in place in order for that road trip to be really, to get to why you want to be there. I think what happens oftentimes, though, is we go, okay, I want to go there. And then we sort of have this meandering route all over the country before we get there. I know when my daughter moved from Rhode Island back to California, when we first planned it, it was, okay, well, let's go off and do the Black Hills and let's see Mount Rushmore and all sorts of other things. And as we got on the road, and we've been on the road for a couple of days, she goes, Mom, let's just go home. It's too much time in the car, and she had two cats in the car as well. So it was a howling mess. So I think that's what's really important about plan is you have a blueprint of where you're going, and then you can make changes as you see what happens throughout the year.
Awesome. So you really need a plan to keep your team from being a howling mess along the way to get to where you're going. That is
Exactly.
a fantastic reason for a plan. Thank you. And Terry Ann, tell us a little bit more about you. And as an entrepreneur, why is it crucial for you to have a plan?
Sure, thank you. So I'm Terry Ann Richards. I'm from St. John, New Brunswick, Canada. I've been an entrepreneur for 16 years. And in my current role, I'm a leadership development coach working with leaders and entrepreneurs globally. I take an inside out methodology. I like to work with individuals from the perspective of if you want to be great, if you want to have all that success in your life, you need to work on your inner stuff first before you work on all that external stuff. You know what? The reality of it is, a goal without a plan is just a wish. And I can tell you that there's all sorts of, someday goals that I have that have no plan attached to them. And the reality is none of them, without just pure luck, will come to fruition unless I put an actual plan in place that gets me from here to there. And so I think, the power of a plan really is that there's a process that you're following. There's a formula that you're following that says, if I do X, Y, and Z, I will move the needle forward. I will get closer to whatever that goal is. If I don't have that plan, 6 months from now, 3 years from now, the potential is I'm going to still be in the same position, right?
Totally.
So many people, we're coming to the end of December. New Year's resolutions, I despise them because if you're doing a New Year's resolution as part of your goal setting for 2021, I challenge you and I question why it's only important on November 1st, or sorry, January 1st, versus right now, today, starting today. My mother, I love her dearly, but she's a Monday woman. I don't know why, but everything is like, yeah, I'll start Monday. I'll start my health plan on Monday. I'll start my diet on Monday. I'll start that workout routine on Monday. Well, if it's not important to you today, it's not something that's going to happen. But the one reason why so many people fail at setting these New Year's resolutions is because they just put a goal out there, just a thing, right? But they don't have any plan of how they're actually going to achieve it. And I think a lot of times people confuse the outcome with the actual goal, right? Like the outcome is, maybe I want to be healthy, right? But how do you
Mhm.
measure healthy? So, maybe the goal is I'm going to lose 20 pounds, right? Or I'm going to run a marathon by the end of 2021, right? That's a goal. But you need a plan. And so many people struggle with that plan. So I'm excited for us to have this conversation today.
Awesome. Yeah, me too. Seems like a lot of us really put a lot of thought, a lot of energy, a lot of passion into the mission, right? This is the big why that we're doing things. And then if that plan falls secondary, it's like, that's a great idea. Now what? Right? Nobody wants to be in that position as a leader. Whether you're a leader of one or a leader of a team, you need to know, like, milestone 1 is this. When this is completed, I'm one more step closer. Milestone 2 is this, and that means I'm that much closer. That way you can actually measure, as Terry-Ann just shared with us, where you are at any given moment. Like Linda just said, if you need to reevaluate and renegotiate where you're going and what the next step is, you can do that, but you need a plan to make it happen. So Tony, tell us a little bit more about you and the importance of having a plan when you're managing a team.
Thanks, Corey. I'm the founder and chief facilitation officer of what I call the brain of your business. We're a leadership mentoring group, and we apply neuroscience to the art of leadership. I'm going to borrow a couple of things from Terry-Ann. Last week, I think it was, she mentioned something about those old AAA road trip things that you get when you go on vacation. And I was thinking about it. It's like, when you go on vacation, one of the most exciting things, it builds up the anticipation, is getting something like a AAA road kit where you know where you're going to go, where you're going to stop, you plan your hotels, it's all exciting. And you never start a vacation on friggin' Monday, right? Like, I don't know. Right. You always start on Friday afternoon. You get out there as soon as you can because you're excited. And so I think like the whole thing about planning should be like planning a vacation. It should be, you know what you want to be, you know who you are, you know where you are, and you know where you want to get to. But then it's the details that really matter. Like, are you going to be a howling mess like Linda was with her daughter and the cats? And if that's the way it is, then turn around. It's like it's not in the stars to go there. Right. So there's a thing like I love the whole thing about inner game, and but there's this element of planning that's like recognizing what you have to work with. Like you're here, you want to get there. But everybody's got triggers and crazy things happen, and the unexpected happens, and sometimes you can deal with it with aplomb, and sometimes it's just like devastating and it's crisis, and that's why people end up wandering all over the country before they get across the state line. So I think for me, what I'm not hearing so far is just, to really be aware of who your people are and what their internal facilities and capabilities are. And to match that, like who's going to do what? Like it's more like the old British sailing ships where you guys have to climb up on the masts and pull the sails up. There's a lot of different components to it. And you got to make sure your people are up for it, and they know their part and they're excited to play their part, as excited as you are. So to me, again, I keep talking about bringing people together and setting intentions and really having a sense of what it's going to feel like if we're succeeding. What are we going to feel like? And having that sort of internal image of knowing that you're on the mark by just being able to see what the mood at every week, at every stage of the progression. So I'll leave it at that.
Awesome. Plans bring teams together. It sounds like if you consider what roles they're going to play along that journey, right? Like this is the plan. For this plan, this is your part in the plan. So people can identify it, they can clearly articulate it, they can get excited about it, and then you're all going on this road trip together.
And you start on Friday afternoon.
And you start on Friday afternoon. Start right now as soon as you can. Yes. Love it. And so now I want to really look at, we start with the mission, we start with the why, and then we build the plan. I myself have experienced, like, I have a mission and then I have a plan, and somewhere in the creation of the two, they don't quite match. So Linda, I would like to start talking about how we make sure the plans that we create are in alignment with our mission.
Corey, I think not only do they need to be aligned with your mission, but you need to have a vision, as to, well, where are we going with this particular project? Yes, to me, the mission is so the overarching why we're in business, why we're doing things, but the visions are the things that really drive what are the pieces that we want to get out this year. We're working on Awaken the Leader, the workshop, the 16-week workshop, and that has a plan, which we've tweaked several times. But I think that the key thing around that is, if you don't know where you're going with that particular project, then it's really hard to set the milestones to be able to get there. I mean, for example, our mission with Jen was to get her home safely.
Right.
But the vision was, well, what we have this trip. What can we accomplish? What kinds of things can we do, whatever, on that trip? And then we also had to make sure that everyone, as Tony said, everyone has a role. Are we putting them in the right role to be able to do what has to be done to move the plan forward? I think one of the best visualizations I ever had of this was a phone company in Washington that I used to do some work with. And in their cafeteria, they had these long sheets of butcher paper hanging on the wall, from the ceiling to the floor. And on it were the key milestones for all of their major projects that they were working on in that organization. And as that major milestone was complete, they put a picture in it so that people knew where they were on the project. And it helped those who were further down in the project to be able to say, ooh, you're getting close to me. I think I need to start ramping up and looking at what do I need to do and that kind of thing. And it made their projects very smooth from one milestone to the next, as Tony was saying, one milestone to the next milestone to the next milestone. And no one was ever surprised by a phone call that said, hey, where's your piece? And you go, well, are you ready for it? Yeah. Did you not look at, did you not see? They also had a war room that was interactive. You could go in and actually interact with the project. And from a project management perspective, it was probably the most brilliant thing I have ever seen. I mean, I'm sure you do something different now that we're in the digital age, but back when we were in paper, it was really great. And it was a great way for them to ensure that folks were on board with the mission, the vision, and the plan.
Totally. I don't know about I still use butcher paper. In my house, I still have those huge walls for the same reason. There's something brilliant about the whole team sees what's going on and they're excited about it. They can anticipate what's coming next, which means they're prepared. And you don't have that week that goes by where nothing happens because this person ended their thing and this person didn't know that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's brilliant. I love that. So really getting the plan concrete, getting the milestones clear, and getting it in front of everyone so everyone can constantly see and interact with it. So it doesn't become this thing that just disappears into the archives somewhere.
Right. It also does something else, Corey, which is the 12th step of herding cats, which is celebrate. So they were continuously celebrating it as each of those things happened. There would be a celebration in the cafeteria as they moved into the next phase. And again, a way of recognizing the people who had worked on that piece and accomplished that, and then giving a hey, let's get going kind of thing for the folks who are coming up next.
I love it. Yeah, it creates the perfect team flow. I am curious how to create that in the digital world in a way that doesn't suck. A lot of the project management software that I've seen that's intended to do that is cumbersome. So anyone watching the video, I would love to hear your thoughts on solutions you found for this. That would be amazing. Drop them in the comments below, please. And Terry Ann, when you have a plan that you've already created and you realize that you missed something and you need to readjust, how do you do that? And how do you make sure that when you pivot, you're not creating a ton more work for yourself and you're not losing the things that need to be done?
It's a good question. It's like an all-encompassing question. So thank you for that. I think the reality of it is like you do really need, and we talked about this last week, but you do need to be really clear of like what is the goal, like where am I headed, where am I going. The reality is goals do change over time,
Mhm.
right? Because you learn something new, or you realize that wasn't really a realistic goal over time, or it's maybe no longer what you want. So, first and foremost, you need to have a SMART goal, right? It needs to be specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and my T is truthful. Do I have
I
a
like that.
second to kind of go through that for you?
Please. Yeah.
Okay, so specific is, you can actually, put a dot if you're picturing like a, I don't know, a sniper gun. You can put a dot on it and say like, this is the specific thing that I am going to achieve. Saying I'm going to be healthier is, how do you measure that, right? So it needs to be
Hmm.
something that is specific enough that you can then measure it. If you can't measure it, it's not a goal, it's not real, it's just frou-frou and fluffy butterflies. And that is fine, but it's not a part of a goal. So it needs to be measurable. I really like having tracking systems. So having an app on your phone, or doing an Excel sheet, or having a piece of paper with lines that say, when I meet this, having milestone goals. I think Linda just said, that celebration of a goal, there's all these little tiny milestones that happen along the way that you need to be able to celebrate. And so
Hmm.
often people go, okay, well, here's where I'm at and here's where I'm going, right? And we have this measuring stick of here's the gap. But there's all the things that we've done, the 1% better that we do to get to this, that we forget to celebrate, and we get frustrated, which slows down our momentum, right? Slows down our productivity. So you do need those little milestones, that tracking system, so you can celebrate it. And then A is attainable. Attainable is more external. So, if I want it to become an NBA star, I don't know, basketball star, I don't think that's something that is potentially attainable for me. I don't actually know much about sports, so I'm going to totally royally hurt this, but I don't think there's an NBA for women. I don't think there is. If there is, I don't know that.
Yes,
So it's
there
not.
is. There's
There
the
is.
W.
Okay.
There's the WNBA.
So maybe it is attainable for me. So externally, it's attainable. Is it realistic, which is internal? Is it realistic for me? No, because I actually am not a really good basketball player. I really don't have any internal want or desire to become a better basketball player. So it's not really realistic. And then my T is it truthful? A lot of times what happens with leaders and entrepreneurs is if you don't have a goal, that means you're working towards somebody else's goal. That's the reality.
Hmm.
If you're walking around right now, I'm like, I got no goals, I got nothing going on in my life. Well, that's because you're working somebody else's goals and you're not working your own. The other side of it is sometimes we just try to keep up with the Joneses, right? In business, you ask people what they want to do. Well, we're going to have 10% growth year over year next year. That's because they read it in a book once, or because their competitors are doing that, or because that's what they think is the next best step. But is it what they really want? So is it truthful to you? The timely part or tangible, those all make sense. And, for it to be measurable, you do need a time. You need it like, I'm starting
Hmm.
on this date and I'm going to own it by this date. That to me is just supposed to happen. But the
Totally.
truthful for me is my measuring stick. So I think the reality of it is when you're putting a plan in place, you need to have that goal as a SMART goal first. It needs to have all of those elements. And so, say you have a plan to achieve that goal, whatever that goal is, and you've, sort of documented what those milestones are that you're supposed to reach. And then over time, the stuff that you were doing actually isn't really helping or improving. That's the beauty. If the goal is super clear, as you're going down the path and you're like, oh, this little thing that I thought I was supposed to do is bringing me further from the goal, well, then that no longer is something that I need to do, and I need to iterate. So there's
Hmm.
iterations that happen all the way, but that's why there's so much value in the measuring, the milestones. Because if not, what happens is if I want to lose, I keep going to losing weight. I'm sorry why I do that. I don't know. Um, if you like your weight, stay that weight. But I'm just throwing that because it's an easy thing for me to work with. But if I have a goal by the end of the year to lose 50 pounds, I shouldn't wait till the end of the year to measure that. You know what I mean?
Right.
I need to be measuring things along the way. Well, how do people lose weight? Well, they eat healthy, they work out, they have enough sleep, they have less stress in their life. So those then become a part of the plan. But if all of a sudden something on that was, I'm going to meditate every day for 30 minutes, and for some oddball reason, I can't seem to get it done, or I don't really like meditation, well, that no longer is now a part of the plan, right? So I iterate, I
Right.
move it off. But you have to be checking in with yourself on a regular basis. So on a weekly basis, having a check-in, a milestone moment where it's like, okay, how am I doing, as per my plan to get me to the end goal? You need to check in. Does that answer your question?
It does. And it actually brings up a really good point as well, which is you need to have a rhythm to check in, whether it's a weekly rhythm to check in with where you're at, bi-weekly, monthly, whatever it is. Check in to see where your milestones are, where the things are that you're measuring. If you're behind, why, what's going on? Is it out of alignment? Does something need to change? Does the plan need to be updated just so we're not stressed? Because now we at least know we're behind. And if we know that, we can readjust the timeline, right? Instead of trying to frantically like, oh God, we gotta go, we gotta get it done. Don't do that to yourself or your team, right? We can iterate, find the next best solution and work toward it. Create a new timeline, a new plan. Still following the same goal, as you just said, which is vitally important, that goal being aligned with the mission and the vision. So ideally, we're coming all the way through. And when we notice something that's taking us off, well, if we have those moments to check in, it's easy to say, oh, well, stop that, do this. But you have to have that moment to check in. That was like the huge nugget of genius that I got from that. Thank you. And Tony, what happens when you have a solid plan and goal and you notice that your team members aren't quite with the plan? How do you get them back on track? What is your process of analysis with that?
Well, that's an abstract situation, and you really have to be specific about it. But some of the themes that we've been talking about enter into this. I thought Linda, really lit up my mind when she talked about having the war room with the big butcher paper and the specific things for each part of the plan, and people could see where their part was and where the progress was. And you made the comment, Corey, that people should comment on the video if they have any ideas of how you can do that digitally, because that really doesn't happen. And
No.
it's like creating a Lincoln Memorial without architects or stone. It's like the digital
Right.
era creates such, but that having a space where people gather and look together at something. I remember early in my career, we would go in and we had our little printouts on 8.5 by 11 paper. There would be 4 sheets that had different goals on them. But I would go there all the time as the manager of my team. I would be constantly checking in there. I'd bring people in there and I'd encourage them to be looking at it. And there's just this physical thing about like looking together at something and taking stock of it together. It kind of creates an energy between people. And I don't know how to do that digitally. But the other thing that I really have been enjoying in the conversations about celebration, I can't overemphasize how important that is. There's like, I do a lot of neuroscience, and this thing in the neuroscience is very common of like the negativity bias and how negative events that affect us are like made out of Velcro and they stick to us, and positive things that we accomplish, we forget about them. They're lined with Teflon and they just slip right through and we lose them from our mind. So I think it's really incumbent on the leader of the team to constantly celebrate the little steps before they're forgotten, before our consciousness is overwhelmed with the next struggle, the next problem, the next stressful situation, to just keep it light. So to me, people work best it's proven from the science that our minds work best when we're in a good mood, when we're up, when we're confident, when we have a lot of mutual respect for each other and we're happy. So just keeping the mood light is a big part of adjusting to those times where we slip, and to find a way of reframing it like, hey, we can do this. this is unexpected, but life's full of unexpected things. And I know that all you guys can come around. And then the other thing I'd like to mention is I was kind of disappointed when Terry Ann went off into SMART goals, because after listening to Linda, I was thinking, oh, I'm going to talk about SMART goals. But as I listened to her, I realized she changed the T, and I thought, I want to change the A and the R. So to me, it's like specific, measurable, and the goal should be adaptable, which is really what I think Terry Ann was saying. Like if you miss something, adaptable, and they should be resilient, and they should be truthful.
I love that. Yeah, adaptability is key in people, in plans, in teams, in business. And that resilience, like conflict is part of life. We're going to have different opinions from one another. You can tell that on these interviews, but we're able to work together because we're connected. So within that kind of conflict space, it creates resilience, right? Because we're able to overcome together by connecting, and then it gets that much stronger. Thank you for that, Tony. That's amazing. And now, before we wrap today, I'm curious, any parting thoughts that each of you have to share with our audience to help them get a little bit better about planning? So Linda, will you start us off once again, please?
Sure. Planning, I think, for many leaders is the bane of their existence. They don't like to do it. They don't want to do it. They don't think they're good at it. And there's a sense of, well, it'll just all come together at the end. And I've actually had people, when I've been speaking to them at the end of the year, asking them how they're doing their goals, they go, I don't know. Well, did you have goals? Well, yeah. How'd you measure them? I didn't. And I think that's the sad part about the end of this year. So if nothing else, I want to encourage people to have a written plan, to put it down in writing, put it up on the wall, put it someplace where it's visible and you can look at it. It doesn't have to be a plan coming out of Project Manager or anything else, but something that works for you. Over the calendar year, you get a sense of, how am I doing? Am I moving forward? Am I getting where I want to go? And that kind of thing. I think too, with celebration, to understand how your people like to celebrate. If you have a whole team of quiet, reserved people who just do their job and are happy about it, having a huge celebration where everybody's involved would be difficult for them. And they would probably never tell you that they were succeeding because they wouldn't want that. So understanding, what types of celebrations do you want? Just a mention? Do you want a full-blown party? What do you want? Because that's also going to inspire them to take the next step, to take on the next goal, and that kind of thing. And I love the SMART goals. Let's see if I have it correctly. It's specific, measurable, adaptable, resilient, and truthful.
I think that's what we came up with. Yeah.
Right. I'm gonna put this in the show notes.
So. Still change the S and M. I challenge you, Linda and Corey, to come up with new words.
Okay. So yeah. So I mean, that's what I would say about the whole thing. Is one, we're at the season to begin looking at next year. And yes, we got thrown off our plans this year, really big time. So how do we recover? How do we move forward? How are we resilient in this pandemic? It's not going away right away. Even with the vaccinations, it's not going away, as we have seen with the new spikes now. So what can we do? How can we be resilient? How can we plan when we're in the middle of this? And I think that's going to show what kinds of leaders we are as to how well we're able to move forward.
Well said.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Terry Ann, what parting thoughts do you have about creating plans for our audience today?
So I think my challenge would just be, to take a quick analysis or inventory on how often you've said that you were going to do something and you didn't, in terms of year over year, whether it was a personal goal or a business goal. So take an inventory. You don't have to tell anyone. You'll know the answer to it relatively quickly. And then I challenge you to do it differently on a go forward basis. I always say to my coaching clients, if I were to look and speak to you, and so today when we're recording this is December 8th of 2020, right? And in my time zone, it's at 12:43. If I call you up at 12:43 on December 8th of 2021 and you are still in the exact same position as you are now, are you cool with that? Because if you're not, the only difference between now and then is a plan. And so we can keep wishing about all the things that we want to accomplish in life, but without a plan, you're not going to get there. And so if you've taken inventory over the last 3 to 5 years of your life and you've not achieved certain things that you've put in front of you, the only reason you haven't is you haven't put a plan in place. And so if you can't do that alone, then yes, you need to join Awaken the Leader, the program that we have coming up. You need to bring in accountability partners. You need that accountability because you have told yourself, you have proven to yourself, unfortunately, like a lot of us, that you can't seem to get it done on your own because there's a piece missing, which is that accountability piece. And sometimes
Yep.
that's the biggest piece, right? So you need somebody to
Absolutely.
challenge you and kind of call bull mucky, which I'm really good at, and a lot of these individuals on this group are as well. So, yeah, that's my thought. Take inventory.
Can I throw in
Thank you.
something else that triggered out of
Yep.
that? And it's the fairy godmother syndrome. Are you waiting for your fairy godmother to come in and sprinkle you with fairy dust and create that fantastic gown or whatever it is that you wanted? She's not coming. Neither is the Aladdin's lamp, which you can then rub and you have 3 wishes. And of course, as I say, be careful what you wish for. In order to reach your vision, your mission, you have to do it. You have to step on that first star and move forward from there. You're not waiting for anybody to make it happen for you.
Nope.
Sorry, Tony.
And and the other thing that I want to talk to as well, for any of you that are sitting there, well, I have a plan, Terry Ann, and I am in the same place I was last year, then I would actually say what you're missing is commitment. And you know what? If a challenge or conflict comes up and your immediate response is like, oh, this is too hard, I'm done, you're not committed to your plan, and that's not going to get you anywhere. I did that for years and years and didn't go anywhere and was frustrated and wondering why. Then realized like, oh, I need to discipline myself and commit to the changes I want to see. Because if I don't, I'm never going to see them. And Tony, let's hear your parting thoughts about the plan for our audience today.
Well, the main thing is if the plan isn't going along as you would like it to go, to me, the big thing is to not get all serious and analytic about it. Because people tend to tense up when they talk about, geez, am I meeting my marks and are my SMART goals? You know, and it gets kind of triggering. And the very triggering gets in the way of you being at your best. So I'm going to like operate off the metaphor that isn't today. If you're putting off the adjustments until Monday, you're not where you want to be. If you have this sort of sense of infectious fun, like, how are we going to do this? We have a new challenge. The challenge is different than it was last week. So how are we going to step up? Let's get to it, guys. And there's a set of 4 questions I think are really useful for the leader who wants to just keep it light but real, which is, where are we? Because you have to, establish where you are compared to where you thought you'd be and deal with the consequences of that. What are we doing right? It's really important to ask, what are we doing right? Because then that's like, creating some of that positive energy that lets people like, yeah, we're good. And then what's not working? So that you can openly, it's not all about me as the leader, like what's not working is my responsibility and I have to be accountable for that. It's like, hey guys, we all can acknowledge that some things are not working. Let's put it out there and just be open about it. It's an act of vulnerability, but it's a very powerful act to have that. And the final question is, what can we do to make what's not working work? And then that becomes an exploratory kind of conversation. An exploratory energy is much more powerful than worry and aggravation and frustration. So you get a lot of new things coming out of that.
Absolutely. Love it. Thank you. So really, we've been talking about the plan today. The plan is to get from where you are now to where you want to go. And the 3 most important things with that are to get real, get committed, and keep it light. Have some fun, right? You got into business because you wanted to make a difference. Chances are you didn't get into business because you wanted to work more, or because you wanted more stress. Keep it fun, keep it light, connect to what really matters, and remember to celebrate. We won't let you forget because we're actually going to come back and talk much more deeply about celebration next week. Until then, get a plan, commit to it, and have some fun. Thank you so much for being with us here today. Linda, Terry Ann, and Tony, thank you as always. You were three of my favorite leaders, and I look forward to connecting with you again next week.
Thank you, Corey.
Thank you.